Welcome back to Irae. A whole lot of nothing going on here. How long have I been out for? Maybe it's only been a few minutes or possibly a few hours. Following my sudden awakening, I realized that someone must have shaken me up. Turning around, I saw... You? Get away from me. The black-haired girl who... Well, it was hard to say for sure, but it seemed like she had saved my life. And yeah, she did stop Wilhelm from completely impaling us. She regarded me in silence, her expression visibly bored. There was no one else around. Wilhelm and the red-haired girl had already left. The body and all the blood had similarly vanished. Impossible. How was this even?
処理はマレウスがやった。それからベイも今はあなたとあなたの周りに興味をなくしたようだから。
The hell are you?
心配はいらない。どうかした？
Initially confused by how exactly she had foreseen my question, I ultimately realized it couldn't have been particularly difficult. By cleanup, she was referring to the body, wasn't she? How did they get rid of it without a single trick? You know, no, wait. I actually didn't want to know. No doubt having guessed my thoughts from my expression, the girl let out a sigh.
理解に至ったようなら帰りなさい。忘れろと言っても無理でしょ。忘れてもらっても困るけど、今日のところはもうあなたに用はない。せいぜい交通事故にでも気をつけることね。体は平気？平気みたいね。立って帰ることくらいはできるでしょ。それであなたの名前は？
She just kept on going without any concern for my feelings. Go home? Yeah, I'd go home alright. But give my name?
教えるわけがないだろう。
Now, why would we tell her anything? She clearly works with those guys.
ベイのことなら心配ないと言ったはずだけどね。
お前を信じろって。
こんな嘘をついて私に何か得があるなら教えてほしい。
Well, that might have been true, but still.
自己紹介しないの？
What do we do? Do we give her a name? I don't think we can trust her. I don't like it. I don't think she needs to know anything more than she has to. We're not giving her a name.
するわけないだろ。俺は帰る。
そう。怖いなら家まで送ってあげましょうか。
No.
余計なお世話だ。
I turned around, spitting the words out. Who the hell did she
ま
think
た
she
会えると
was?
いいわね。
No. Yeah, right. I never wanted to meet her, even see her ever again. If I could help it. God damn it, why? Did I really kill someone? Now that the body was gone, I had no way of confirming.
時期にまた増えるわよ。
It almost sounded like she had read my mind when she had said that. I felt unbelievably irritated. How did things come to this? I wish someone would tell me. Why did this have to... It was a miracle I made it back home in one piece after all of that. I must have been unconsciously stealing myself, as nausea assaulted me the moment I passed through the front door. Unable to suppress it, I threw up all over the entryway. Even after vomiting this much, the spasms in my stomach refused to settle down. We're lucky to be alive. Damn it, damn it, damn it! This had to be a joke of some sort. Someone was going to lecture me again if she saw the mess I'd made. I had to do something about this before she came over in the morning to wake me up. I held back my endlessly welling nausea as I cleaned up my own vomit. Halfway through, unable to hold it any longer, I threw up in the sink, but... She was probably sleeping like a log right about now, of course. I kept internally apologizing to her for making so much noise in the middle of the night. I'd make sure there was no stench left, so I'd hope she'd forgive me. I didn't want her to ever find out that I had been a murderer. that I was attacked by some strange people and that I was so pathetically scared to death right now. I knew how much of a worrywart she was. She'd probably cry her eyes out. I needed Kasumi to be her usually stupid, cheerful, and smiling self. Otherwise, I'd lose it. So... I know I was breaking my promise by keeping secrets from her, but I hope she'd forgive me. I'd apologize to her eventually. Probably sooner than later. With the urge to vomit up and my stomach acid gone, I wiped my mouth with my cuff. Oddly enough, there was no spurts of blood or bloodstains to be found. My wounds really had healed. She called it first aid treatment, but why did it completely heal me? It defied common sense. I wish I could write the whole thing off as a dream, but still wrestling with those selfish thoughts, I took off my tattered clothes and threw them into the trash. Then after a minute's hesitation, I took a peek in Kasami's room through the hole in the wall. Thank God. My consciousness began to fade out as I felt relief welling up inside me. I'll protect you, Kasumi, from anyone. No matter what. Even myself, if need be.
それじゃあまず言い訳があるなら聞こうかな。裸でしかも穴から上半身だけ出してすごい寝相ですね君は。何やってんのよマジで。
My morning began with Kasumi lecturing me. As for why, well, it was just like she had said. I couldn't really blame her for being exasperated.
もしかして予売？
違う。
No.
じゃあなんで裸？
暑かったんだよ。
あんた寒がりだって言ってたじゃない。
熱っぽくてな。
嘘、本当に？
Seemed like that was the wrong answer.
言われてみればなんか本当に顔色悪いね。熱？
On the other hand, Katsumi kept looking at me more perplexed than worried. I tried putting on a brave face, but it wasn't going too well. I wasn't expecting that stupid lie to actually fool her.
今日は休んだ方がいいんじゃない？病み上がりなんだし、無理するのは良くないよ。
大丈夫。
It was true that I would have physically appreciated taking the day off, but I didn't feel like I could just hold myself up in my room. I needed something normal to erase the abnormal experience I just went through yesterday.
行くよ俺。
What the hell was
日
that?
数やばいし。
Who were those people?
そんな1日2日で危なくなるほどシビアな出席日数だっけ？っていうか、あんた学校嫌いなんじゃ。
別に嫌いじゃない。好きでもないけど。
Right now, I kind of needed it. Oh, sorry. But right now, I kind of needed it. Holding my head, I attempted to stand up, but... Feeling lightheaded, I ended up collapsing onto my bed. Unbelievable. I couldn't even do something that simple.
決まりだね。あんた今日は休みなさい。なんだったら私も休んで看病とかしてあげよっか。ほら、おかゆとか作って、あーんみたいな。
No, thank you.
ちょっと何よ、嫌なら嫌って言いなさいよね。
いや。
うわ、何こいつ本当に言ったよ、ありえね
違う、そうじゃなくて。
I found myself seriously conflicted for a moment. Since I couldn't move, I wondered if having her around would be safer. But that was a mistaken conclusion, you see. It was morning, so Kasumi would be in less danger around all the everyday people commuting to school and work. It'd be better than her being alone with me in this place at the very least. I couldn't allow myself to take advantage of her goodwill.
学校には行く。だけどすぐには無理そうだから、先行っててくれ。
大丈夫なの？そんなんで。
大丈夫。
That was all I could say, but I had to force myself to do so. Now that I'd said it, I couldn't turn back.
多分、昼までには行けると思う。担任には適当に言っといてくれ。
Noon? Why don't we just take the whole day off?
わかった。
It's like half the day gone.
じゃあ早く来ないと私 私を襲ってきたから KO しちゃいましたって言うからね。
ああ、好きに言いふらしてくれ。
Or don't do that. In reality, that wasn't all different than what actually happened. But now that I thought about it.
かすみ、テレビで何か
Oh
や
yeah,
って
the
たか。
TV, the news.
どういうこと？
だからその、あれだよ。
A murder.
昨日もやっぱりあったのか。
Kasumi oddly cast down her eyes. Well, that was only natural. I didn't exactly ask in a good way.
今日はまだ報道されてなかったね。犯人も昨日はお休みだったんじゃないのかな。
そうか。
So the body really did vanish. Wrestling with a number of complex feelings, I heaved a sigh.
このまま二度と起きなきゃいいのにね。そしたらみんなも。
そうだな。
Kasumi didn't. Or rather, no one aside from me and those three psychos knew about what happened last night. She didn't need to know either. At the very least, it was probably best to keep it locked away in my heart until I felt ready to tell her. Even if I were to confess right here and now, no one will believe me without the body as proof. Not to mention the obvious question of how I made such a huge mess without any weapons. There was still a part of me that considered last night to have been a dream. Or rather, a part of me that desperately wanted to believe that.
手間取らせて悪かった。お前も遅刻しないうちに行った方がいいぞ。
了解。じゃあそっちも早く後追ってきなさいよ。
わかった。
覇気がない。
うざい。早く行け。
I drove Kasumi out of the room with a wave of my hand. I felt dizzy from raising my voice, but it wasn't enough to wear me out. I had to be stout-hearted. I didn't know how, but my wounds had healed, so this was probably mostly in my head. With that said, though...
かすみのやつ、やけにあっさり引いたよな。
She was quite fond of preaching, meddling in others' affairs, and was a complete worrywart. But it did truly come as a shock that she simply did as she was told without offering any complaints.
まあ、いいか。
Yeah, whatever, right? Women. A girl's biorhythms were too complicated for a guy like me to understand, as fickle as the autumn sky. Anyway, I needed to recover my strength. And with that in mind, I decided to rest for a while. Though I felt drowsy, sleeping was the last thing I could allow myself to do. Just as that thought drifted through my mind, I fell asleep. And so I ended up staying still for about 4 hours. My condition was a far cry from what could be called a full recovery, but the nauseous feeling in my chest had settled down. I had a headache from the lack of sleep, but I kept ignoring it. If I left for school now, I could probably make it before lunch break, although I couldn't even remember what classes I was supposed to have in the afternoon. Enduring my dizziness, I changed into my uniform and went outside. It was cold. Goosebumps began to cover my entire body, but not due to the temperature. The scenery I should have considered familiar felt terribly off for some reason. Those freaks still lurk somewhere within the city. That thought alone made me my normal route to school in a completely different light. My fear toward those mysterious unknown beings began to cast an ominous filter over my world. In any case, I needed to hurry over to school. On my way, I debated whether or not to go through the park, but in the end I decided to take a detour. I didn't want to go anywhere near that place right now. I walked with a faster pace than usual, but as my condition forced me to take a few breathers along the way, fourth period had already ended by the time I arrived at school. Now, maybe this was just the right time to arrive fashionably late. With the school bell still chiming in the background, I spotted a familiar face come out through the gates. Himuro. Seeing her safe filled me with relief. Still, I wondered what she was doing here. After a few moments, Himuro took notice of me as well.
こんにちは。今頃来たの、藤井君。
She wore the same old poker face as always. Was she going home?
ピンポン。私帰るところ。残念だけど、入れ違いだね。
Looks like my thoughts were written all over my face.
先輩、体調でも崩しましたか？
それは君の方じゃないの。顔、真っ白だよ。
Really? I couldn't exactly tell, but I wouldn't be surprised if it turned out to be true.
とっても美人。
Aww.
やつれた方とか。怒りんぼだね。すぐそんな顔する。
余計なお世話ってやつですよ。
My tone was a bit harsh, but I saw no reason to be formal with her after all this time. Anyways, it only felt natural for me to have rather offbeat conversations with her. That's kind of how she was. More importantly, she was going home on her own in the middle of the day on a weekday, with barely anyone out on the streets.
先輩、今帰るのはちょっと。
私は帰るよ。誰が何と言っても帰るよ。神様の命令でも聞かないよ。まだ何か？
いえ。
Following a moment of hesitation, I ultimately caved in. She wasn't connected to me the way Kasumi was, so I figured it'd be best to keep the distance between us that way. For someone with so few friends, it felt like a painful choice, but...
じゃあ、俺は行くんで。先輩もなんでサボるのか知らないけど。さよなら。
She gave a light nod, to which I replied with a curt wave before letting her pass by me. I felt genuinely relieved as I proceeded to cross through the gate. Almost everyone here was my age, and the place was basically off limits to outsiders. Even though I was only on close terms with a select few here, the place still remained relatively free from foreign contamination. This was without a doubt a symbol of my day-to-day life, as well as a place I would literally call my fortress right about now. Man, who would have thought I'd be thinking of school like that one day?
Fujii-kun.
Potentially due to how lost I was in my own thoughts, hearing my name spoken out loud surprised me. As I reflexively turned around...
気をつけてね。
は?
Careful? Of what? Himuro, paying no heed to my confusion, turned around and left, with nothing else to add. It's almost like she was in a hurry to get out of here as soon as possible. Unable to untangle the web of incomprehensible feelings taking hold of me, I simply stood there for a while, staring blankly into space instead of going after Himuro. What is this music? I might have stood there forever, had Kasumi not picked that moment to call me on my phone.
もしかしてまだ家にいるわけ？
いや、校門のとこだけど。
そうなの？あ、ちょっと待って。あ、いたいた。はーい、やっほー、こっち見ろ。
Oh, Kasumi. I turned around and saw Kasumi leaning out of a window on the third floor, waving to me. As embarrassing as always.
気分どう？良くなった？良くなったんならさっさとこっちに上がってきなさい。驚くよ。
Surprise?
すでにお前の大声で十分驚いてるんだけど。
Tell her, Ren. I could hear her loud and clear already. There was really no need to use the phone. Sighing, I held my phone away from my ear to escape the auditory nightmare. Well, I had no idea what happened, but she seemed to be as cheery as ever. I always wish she'd pass some of that energy on me.
すぐ行く。だからもうわめくなよ。
了解。
And she didn't listen. Man, she really was loud. I entered the school, smiling bitterly to myself. However, I found myself suddenly assaulted by an intense sense of discomfort. No, oppression. Like the school itself had been thrown into the depths of the ocean, or the belly of a colossal beast. The air froze over and cracked. A grotesque, difficult to describe presence gradually encroached out of those cracks, like blood oozing from a fresh wound. No. It seemed more like everything in this place had changed from the way it was yesterday. Only barely, but enough to be felt with a terrifying clarity. I remember this welling up sense of nausea. It felt like the one from yesterday. That mixture of blood, death, and decay. An odor thick enough to make one faint. The stench of murder. The two of them looked down on me just like they did last night. My vision wore from the backlighting. Despite it being noon, the rays of the sun seemed to wear the crimson hue of blood, at least to my eyes. Them. What the hell are they doing here? Two girls towered over me in that light, wearing uniforms I'd been all too familiar with. Yet their presence felt dreadfully out of place, like a colossal abnormality in the midst of the mundane. They were graceful and sweet as flowers, yet they were in truth carnivorous plants in disguise, their thorns seeping only poison. There they stood, in a world disconnected enough from reality to make me firmly believe that.
はじめまして、藤井蓮君。私はルサルカ・シュベーゲリン。こっちの怖い顔は桜井ケイ。素敵なところね、このシューレ。気に入ったわ。
The red-haired girl, Rusalka, uttered her introduction with a mocking smile decorating her cherubic face. Did that getup mean she was a transfer student? In other words, the surprise Kasumi mentioned was,
ご名答。私たち同じクラスよ。あなたとかすみと。だからね、仲良くしましょう。
Zarathustra. The last comment came not from her lips, but echoed directly in my head. The resulting headache felt so violent I found myself nearly falling down the staircase. The school was no longer my fortress, no longer my safe haven. Foreign substances had mixed into my day-to-day life. I could feel dread spreading throughout my body. The world as I once knew crumbled to ashes with a thunderous roar. I couldn't escape this.
そうね。楽しくやりましょう。
Well, time to drop out, I guess. It's okay. I wasn't the academic type.
あなたが賢明ならいいけれど。
One voice rang with playfulness, another with piercing severity. Locked in these two stares, I felt a hopeless sense of xenophobia, a fear toward the unknown, filling my chest. This day, this hour, and minute marked the beginning of my day-to-day life's gradual collapse. And I was powerless to stop it. Swastika 0 of 8. Wonder what that means. Okay, well, chapter 2 is ended. Going on to chapter 3. On the outside, the two off-season transfer students grew accustomed to school without any problems. Rusalka Schwalgelin, the cheerful and sociable exchange student who ended up popular among boys and girls alike. Kai Sakurai. Her taciturn, indifferent, and mature image served as a wall between her and others, but rather than avoiding her, it felt more like others believed she was out of their league. They were polar opposites, but together they made a picture-perfect combination. Truth be told, it could be said that their parents alone had taken complete control of the school. They had a talent for attracting followers around them just by being there. No plan, no violence, nothing. To call it a kind of charisma would likely be quite apt, but I couldn't endure it at all. What in the world were those two doing at my school? Or rather, what goal did they have in mind? It was a terrifyingly foolish question. They were here for me, to observe my day-to-day life. I had to pretend everything was fine. I couldn't show them a single opening, while also making sure to observe them in turn. The school now housed two dangerous beasts, and I was the only one aware of it. It had already been a week since Kasumi, Himuro, and the others, that is, all the students and teachers, had been unknowingly taken hostage. And that alone was hardly my only source of anxiety. I couldn't have dreams. In particular, I had to somehow prevent myself from sleeping at night. If I slept, people would die. I murdered people in my sleep. And almost as if to support that very notion, the murders had ceased ever since I stopped sleeping. I'd spent the whole week on edge, unable to even take a proper rest. I wondered which would come first, madness or death. I felt my sanity crumbling, and the nightmare was still going on.